How's it going, guys? Anxious Cynic back again with another Mine-imator tutorial. So this week I decided I'd show you guys how to do a little something like this right here. So I got asked this question at least once, and I just decided it might be kind of fun to tackle this week. How to do an inventory like this right here for an animation or something. As you can see, I've already made an attempt here, and this is what I came up with. There's numerous ways you could do certain aspects of this, but I'm just going to show you guys the one way I decided to try and do it. So let's go ahead and hop into it. First thing we're going to do is open up a surface. And as you can see, I already have my texture, but for now, it'll probably be like that. So we're going to go ahead and bring in our texture and let's spin it around. Usually the textures are kind of weird and they spawn seemingly away from you. So when you turn it, you see like there's a bright side. That's usually the front. So I recommend making sure it's oriented properly. And what we're going to have here is just basically this blank, I don't know where that came from, this blank surface. And as usual, I got a number of things in here we're going to get to in the future, so don't mind all this. What you're going to do is you're going to browse and you're going to find your textures. So this is my default Minecraft textures here, and you may notice the inventory here has all this junk on it, if you can see that. And what I had to do is open it in Photoshop and get rid of this stuff. For you, if you can download a plain version, or you can use, if you're doing the inventory, then this is the one you'd have to use, but there's obviously different ones. Basically, you want to take this texture, open it in whatever photo editing program you use that allows you to have transparent backgrounds, and remove the bits on the bottom. And what you'll end up with is this kind of texture here that I already have imported. So when I apply it, it is just this bit of the inventory with the bottom bits cut off. So hopefully that makes sense. And depending on how you're doing your scene, as you can see here, I've scaled mine up. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this one up. Let's just make it super big, 3.5, man. We're going to blow it up. All right, so what we got to do here, obviously, if you want to mimic how Minecraft actually looks, then you have a preview of your character here. So basically the way that I did that is you spawn in a character and there he is. So what you do is you parent this to your surface. Let's go ahead and rename our surface so that we know what we're doing here. I'm gonna name it Tut Inventory. Did I misspell that? All right, so we've got him parented, and as you can see, he is inheriting the scale. So usually I would turn that off, but if you want to animate this, then you'll definitely want to keep that enabled. So definitely leave that alone and just scale your things down as you need to, something like that. So what we're going to do is bring our guy up here and just set him up right in this little black area where your guy might actually be. So the other thing here is, obviously this is a 2D plane with 3D elements on it, so you do have to make the decision whether or not you're going to try to flatten things out or not, which would be pretty simple. Just figure out which one you need. I think it's going to be our Y, the way I have my Mine-imator set up, so you can do that and just kind of have them flatly on there. Another thing you may want to do is turn off cast shadows, because it depends on what you want it to look like, but these things could cast shadows onto your background here, so you can turn that off if you want. I don't really know if it makes that much of a difference. It really depends on what you're going for. Another thing, just a little note about how to set this up, you may want to turn your brightness up on the inventory if you don't want it to be affected by lighting. As you can see here, that didn't make any difference. Wow, I can't talk. For me, because I had it in the light, but perhaps if you're rendering, as you can see here, it's a little bit dark, so you bring up that brightness, and that way your surface here, since it's supposed to be inventory, won't be affected by lighting in the scene. And you may want the same thing to apply to the objects you have parented to the surface as well. All right, so now for the meat of it, we want to put some items in there. So let's just spawn, let's just say any little thing here. Let's spawn this, well, no, not that. Let's put some leather on there. All right, so we have a leather texture item, And what we're going to do is, as you might imagine, we're going to just parent this to our inventory texture. And again, it's inheriting the scale. And if you're not going to animate it, then you can turn that off. But if you want to animate it the way that I did here, and hopefully as you saw in the opening video, then you'll want it to inherit the scale and you'll just scale this down. That does kind of complicate things a little bit. It makes it a little bit more tricky to finesse these things into place. But as far as animating goes, in the long run, it's probably the better move. So what you'll do is you'll just place the items however you want. Once again, these are 3D items. You can turn that off if you go into the library and you take off 3D item, and that will make it 2D. I kind of feel like 3D looks good, so I'm just going to leave it at 3D so I don't have to worry about the textures clipping over each other or anything like that. Keeps it real simple and real nice. All right, so there you go. So that's how you can do that. And a little tip for how to more easily duplicate these to make the process a little simpler, a little quicker for you, is instead of going up here, dang old taskbar, instead of going up here and spawning in a new item and everything, just go to your library and click this button here, which is the two little squares, and it says duplicate given template. So you can duplicate that, and then it'll put in another item in the library for your whatever item you have, and you can just go down here to change, and let's just give them a diamond hoe, and nothing happens, right? But if you click this button, if I can enunciate words, it says create new instance of this template in the timeline. So if I click that, then boom, we have our hoe sitting right here for us. So we don't have to go through all these multiple steps. We can just click those two things right in the library and have it good to go. And of course, we'll just do the same process with this one. You just parent it, and you'll want to make sure that the position is set, and it makes it huge. So what you're going to have to do is scale it down. Now, unfortunately, from what I've discovered is you can't use the same value on every single item. Certain items are a little bigger than others, and thus have to be scaled a little differently. So you'll just have to use your best judgment for that and whatnot. But there you go. That is how you can have your inventory and do stuff with it. Alright guys, so now for the grand finale, so to speak, is our crafting table thing. So let's say you want to do an animation where Steve brings up this crafting bit and he's like, hey, I'm going to craft something, right? So you want to do the thing like where you show the items go into place and whatnot. So let's see if we can go ahead and quickly do something like that. So what we want to do is I'm going to have him make a fishing rod. So let's identify where our stick is, if I can ever find it. So what we're going to try to do here is use a little trick that I had the idea to try, where we're going to use the stick, we're going to animate it first, and then we're going to do some duplications to make this step a little bit easier for us. All right, so right here is where it starts, and it's going to just sit there. So let's just say at this point in time, we're going to bring it up and start drawing out those points. So we're just going to go ahead and position the stick here, like so. And then we're going to move up. Let's just say it's going to be kind of a relatively smooth motion with maybe getting a little bit quicker between each thing as you continue to do what you're doing as you would in the game. So we're going to go ahead and put that one there in the middle, and then come up just a few more frames and have it go up to the tip choppy one, something like that. And let's just say at this point you go and take your remaining sticks, if you had them, and you drop them into your inventory. So we'll just kind of have that happen. Something like that. All right, so what we have here is the stick just kind of goes and does all this. And now obviously that's not a very clean animation there. It kind of goes wonky, but let's just go with that for now. Let's go ahead and name this Sticks, if I can spell. And what I'm going to do is have this one selected, the sticks, and I'm going to click this duplicate the selected objects button. and I'm going to duplicate it 3 times. So now we have these 3. And what we want to do is I'm going to make it so they're invisible from the beginning. And then this one, the very first one, is going to become visible at this point. So I'm going to get rid of these keyframes so it has nothing more afterwards. And it's going to become visible at that point. This one as well, I'm going to go ahead and delete this keyframe so that it becomes visible at this point and then has no more keyframes afterwards. Same with this one, going to delete these 2 so it stays invisible until this point and then has no keyframes afterwards. So what we should get is doop, doop, doop. They get placed into position there. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the stuff there, the string, and we'll see what that looks like in the end. Alright guys, so what we have now is the sticks come up and then the string comes up and then it goes right back. One little tip there for how I did that is I put the string right back where it came from, and all you'd have to do is just copy paste the keyframe of its initial position at the end, so that way it'll just go right back and you don't have to refinesse it back into that spot. I didn't do that with the stick, I just put it in a different spot, but if you wanted to go back to where it was, that's an easy way of doing it instead of having to reanimate it all the way back around. Another thing you could do to make this maybe look a little bit better is instead of it just going linearly, you could possibly do this with some transitions. So let's see what it looks like if we give it, let's go with this transition. Let's have these 3 all have this transition. There we go. So, that might not be the best transition to go with. Let's go ahead and deselect that. But as you can see, it kind of makes it stop for a second on those. And that's a good way to kind of make it look like the player, Steve, or whoever who's perpetrating these acts, is actually dropping the things into place. So it comes up and then slowly goes around and clicks into place. Something like that. Not too bad. All right, so we've got our recipe done, and now we need a final result. Now, we could have had this set up earlier, but I didn't do it, so it is what it is. Let's go ahead and... Which one would you want to use? The one with the string, or is it this one? I don't know what it is in Minecraft. Let's go with the string, just to be crazy. All right, so we've got our fishing rod now. Let's go ahead and name it Rod for whatever reason. And we're going to parent it to our crafting surface as usual. And then we're going to have to scale it way down. And we're going to put it in the result box here. Something like that. Come on. Get it in there somewhere about center. We could probably scale this one up just a tad. Let's see, is that too big there? Maybe. Whoa, 0.9. Something like that. 5. Let's give a little bit of size. It's kind of a big box. All right. Something like that. That's pretty close. Right about there. And so what we're going to do now is toggle the visibility of the rod here to only appear once that final string goes into place. And let's have it kind of appear just afterward. Maybe it's not too immediate. So we're going to place a keyframe behind it and toggle the visibility. And let's see what this looks like as a whole animation here. Something like that. One of those words. All right. So there's our thing. And you got it. Steve is manipulating it with his mind. Puts the thing there and then boop. Oh, we had it selected. Let's go ahead and get rid of that selection so we don't have to see that. All right. There we go. Puts it in. Grabs the other one. And there it is. And then you can click it and drag it out. You know, stuff like that. All right. So that's how you would animate the crafting aspect, but I wanted to include one more little bonus tip here. If you wanted to kind of do a cool effect once you've crafted the item, then what I've done here is duplicated our rod, and I've unparented the duplicate so that I can do what I wish with it, and I've resized it back to its normal state, so we're going to have to try and match this up. So what I'm going to do is scale this down and try to match it up to our other rod here. Let's try to get the position similar so that when we scale it, it'll scale down and help us to keep track of what's going on. Somewhere around there, just about like that. And what we can do now is at this point, we're going to have our parented rod become invisible. Let's go ahead and drag these keyframes out so it pops up. And then right around here, let's just say, so we're going to have this one go invisible. And then this one, let's just animate it popping out. So first thing we're going to do is kind of have it come out. And then maybe it goes up and out a bit. And then it'll shoot over to our character. Let's just say, let's pretend Steve is out here. And it'll shoot over and go back to the size that it's supposed to be. Doop. See what that looks like. So there you go. It pops out. It's a little bit rough. It's not really the best animation, but if you wanted to portray Steve kind of crafting something in the menu, and then like, you know, it's kind of an idea of like the menu is not part of the world, and then when he crafts it, it pops it into existence. So it actually comes to life right out of the crafting menu and flies over towards where your character is. It comes to life, and there it is. Alright guys, one last tip I wanted to give for this tutorial is an alternative for the inventory. So what you have here is this little animation that I did with Steve where he's got the inventory popping up out of him and he moves his arm and stuff. So what if we want to kind of mimic how the actual game is, where your character in the inventory kind of responds in kind to how you're reacting in the world? So basically how we would accomplish this is very similar to our reflection tutorial. So what we're going to do is create a surface, and we're going to parent it to our inventory, which is interface surface that I have here. And we're going to go ahead and scale it to the size that we need. Just go ahead and basically we want to replace this black area more or less with this stuff here. Try to get that the best we can. It may not be perfect, but of course you can take all the time you need to perfect this. You could also take this black area and remove it in your photo editing program, so that way you don't have to worry about it. It'll just be blank and you can make it as transparent as you need to, and then recreate it within Mine-imator, so that could be pretty cool too. So what we're going to do is bring it out just a tad so it's not fighting the surface here. And what we're going to do is create a camera. And we're going to take this camera and let's just say we're going to put it right here. And we're going to make the camera the texture for our surface, as you might have imagined. So we're going to take this and we're going to go to our library. We're going to go to our surface. We're going to take the texture and make it camera. And that's the wrong one. I have another camera. There we go. That's the camera. All right. So there you go. You got that. And what we're going to do is create another surface. And we're going to take it. If we can find it. Got so much stuff in the scene, man. It's not even funny. All right. So we're going to take this surface and let's have it go 90 degrees. We're going to drag it over here and basically put it in front of our camera. We're going to resize it, of course. Let's bring it over here and let's bring up the size of it, something like that. Let's also, just to make sure we're crossing the I's and dotting the T's, is we're going to turn off cast shadows just to make sure that this doesn't interfere with our scene. So now we've got a camera pointing at a surface that is the texture for another surface. Okay, so what we're going to try to do here is take our human, that is this character here, whichever one you've animated. Now this will be like kind of a last step you do once you've done all your animating for this particular scene. We're going to duplicate the human, and I'm going to go ahead and keep having my taskbar pop out there. I'm going to delete the interface off of the duplicate. And then I'm going to take him, we're going to put him right over here. You just have to try to get this stuff lined up the best we can. We want to see the whole body. lean that back a bit and let's make it bigger so it fills up the whole scene. And what we're gonna do is take our human and our camera and we're gonna bring both of them up so that way our whole screen's black. Now you can do this any way you want to. I'm just kind of filling it out as I go along with this tutorial here. So by no means do you have to do exactly what I'm doing. All right, so now that we've got that all set up, what I'm gonna do is use our camera parameters here to try and smooth this image out. So we can adjust our screen ratio. Let's try to bring Steve a little bit more into his usual self, 1.7 maybe. It's a little bit closer to how I want it. And let's watch this as we move Steve because he's not quite centered the way I want. Right about there. All right, so there we go. That was kind of an endeavor there. All right, so one last thing we have to do is take our surface and make the background black. So we're gonna have the mix color at black, which it is by default, and we're gonna bring the mix percentage up to 100%. And our final result should be, doop. And then you get this accurate portrayal of Steve, and that inventory image will mimic all of his movements and stuff, as you can see there. So there's a few things you might would want to do with, casting shadows and coloration and whatnot. If you don't have things set up, you may have to light him over here a little better or whatever, but you can actually do that and kind of mimic the way the inventory looks and works within Minecraft itself. So that's going to be it for this tutorial. That was quite a bit of information, and I had quite a bit of trouble organizing this all for this video. So I apologize if it was a little bit rocky or bumpy, but I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Share it with your friends and your family and your pets. And I will see you guys in the next video.